Okay, a nose. A nose is kind of it's a little more difficult to draw a nose. It's almost like a sculpture because it's something that's pointing at you in space, especially when you're drawing it head on. And so I'm just going to give you a guideline for drawing, I guess, different kinds of noses. Um, we're going to start with what you might want to look at. You might want to think about the point of the nose. Is the nose pointing up, or is it pointing down? Is it pointing right at you? Right? So let's think about some key things that you want to think about. One thing, if the ball of the nose sometimes is pointing right at you, let's say that's the ball of the nose. Now, don't forget that you have kind of like, I guess you call it a V of the nose. And then the V of the nose is connected to the nostrils. Nostrils, some of them are, depending on if the nose is pointing up or down, sometimes you don't even see the nostrils of someone. Other times, you do see them. But we've got the nostrils, and then you got to think about the flesh, because there's flesh under there. And so there might be another ball here, and there might be a ball here. And so if you can imagine, like the nostril, the hole opening is kind of like a donut. So you might have that shape, and of course, that might be connected to the bridge of the nose. And the bridge of the nose might, in order for it to look thinner, sometimes the girls put like a white line here when they're putting makeup on. So then you got to think about, okay, I'm going to shade the nose. So you might want to think the bottom half, basically maybe the bottom half of the nose is in the shadow. And maybe since the ball of the nose over here, it might catch a little light out here. But overall, from here down, think of shadow. So that it starts to look three-dimensional. And then depending on whether the face has shadow on both sides, you might want to think about highlighted shadow. There's a thing called the Terminator Point. Astronomers, people who are looking at the moon, they'll see the where you see a crescent moon, where the top or one side of the moon is light and the other side is dark, and the part that's dark we cannot see. Well, the Terminator Point would be that area where the C part, let's say this is a moon here, right? And so the Terminator Point would be right here where the light goes into shadow, and for some reason we see more contrast here where the light meets the dark, right? So you can actually show that Terminator Point, like right here, you can get a little darker, just a little bit, to make it look more natural. Of course, we don't want a line here, right? So you might have to step back and erase that. What we don't want is this. We don't want to have the ball of the nose, and then, oh, we got the V part, or V's, you know, the shape changes. And then you got the nostrils. And here's a mistake I see a lot of people doing, right? They'll get all this right, and then they'll do this. What is wrong with this? Well, you need to let the space here, like this, take this line and move it out here. Take this line and move it out here so that it begins to wrap under. So it's not touching the nostril, right? Another mistake we make is we draw the right shape of the nostril, and then we kind of outline it and make it look white. In the middle, and it looks like something's popping out, like something's like you need to find a napkin or something, right? So avoid these mistakes, right? Think about a donut, right? Think about the nostril as a donut, so it has this hole in it, and it's connected. So that way you're not drawing a line here. That makes sense? And that way you have this nose happening and there's some space. Of course, remember, we have different kinds of noses. So another way to think about it is sometimes I'll think about, okay, what if it's pointing up a little bit? Maybe I'll make that ball of the nose. Sometimes the ball of the nose is not even circular. Sometimes it's more squarish or like a rectangle, right? And then what if the V of the nose is more narrow looking? Maybe they're pointing up more. Sometimes we make a mistake of making the nostrils too close together, and sometimes they're out more, like this. The shape is different. Depends on the nose that you're observing or looking at. By the way, Mrs. Valladares is sitting in front of me, and I think this first nose looks kind of like hers. Do you think so, Mrs. Valladares?
I think so.
Very good. Now, oftentimes we might have like a triangular shape here. Can you see that triangular shape? Right? So then the shape is a little different. It might be like this. Sometimes it might like go in a little bit. It depends on the individual you're drawing and which direction the nose is pointing. So pay attention to little things like that. Don't forget you have that bridge of the nose. Sometimes this part is more prominent. There's a part here that catches light, I guess you would say. It's kind of like shaped like a diamond. And then the rest of it is kind of like sculpting. And the nose might end up going and meeting with the eye socket. So you might have some dark, oops, I have the moon in the way. I get the moon out of the way. So think about also reflected light. Sometimes you might have shadow, but it might back away and not be as dark in this area. But don't forget about the Terminator point, meaning you can get a little darker there. And then don't forget how you have light and shadow. So overall, to be honest, if you overall shadow the bottom half of the nose, it's already gonna start looking better. So these are little things you want to look for. Depends on the nose. Follow the nose, it always knows. I heard that somewhere, I think in a commercial or something. Sometimes it's all hatch marks, shading, whatever it takes, smoothing, gradations. It's almost like you become the sculpture when you're observing a nose. But sometimes there's, you're wondering, well, what do I do here? Does it connect? Well, it kind of trails off, right? And sometimes this V might go lower, depending on the individual. Or if the nose is pointing down, you might see less nostril. Anyway, that's how you draw a nose. Let's review once again. Think about it. It is the ball of the nose, the nostrils. You can actually start like this if you want, and So you actually have the ball of the nose in the middle and then one on either side. And then think about the nostril shape. Don't forget, nostril shapes are different. And then continue with the nose. And don't forget, think about the Terminator Point, a little darker shading, and think about the shade in the bottom half. To be honest with you, if you don't have time, you're doing a nose quick, shade that bottom half. It'll help you a lot real fast. Okay, that's the nose. Here's Miss V and her nose. Yay, have a wonderful day.